Hello, today I'm going over gray whale migration lecture. So we're talking about gray whales, but really specifically the migration that they take. It's one of the longer migrations, especially for larger animals. But migrations happen among many species, and migrations that can go thousands of miles are not uncommon. So we've got gray whales here off the Pacific coast. Gray whales are part of a group known as baleen whales. Other baleen whales are like humpback whales, blue whales, and they're filter feeders. They filter food through baleen plates in their mouths, meaning they eat lots of tiny creatures. So filter feeders, even these big giant whales, they're going to be eating microscopic organisms, things like phytoplankton, zooplankton, very small crustaceans like krill. Okay, let's take a look at the actual route. So we have Alaska up here, and then Canada, and then the west coast of the United States down into Mexico. So when when it's summer, whales are up in the cold waters of Alaska up here because that's some of their best feeding grounds. There's a lot of productivity up there. So they have lots of mass, a lot of biomass of food that they can eat. Great whales migrate 5,000 miles from Alaska to Mexico, staying close to the shore. As far as close to the shore, it looks like it's about 2.5 miles offshore. That's usually, they're usually within that 2.5 mile range. So that's very close. The reason for migration is similar to other species, that being changing temperatures and food availability. So one of the things that we know is that up here in the Alaska region in winter, it's gonna get much colder and more dangerous. So it's not even that the temperature of the ocean's changing so much, but you're gonna get more storms, more ice in the water, more unpredictability. So here's what gray whales are doing. There's a couple things we're going over here. One was the feeding, which we talked about them needing or preferring to be in the Alaskan waters to feed and bulk up during summer. But then in winter, they're gonna move down to Mexico to have their calves. So they get pregnant up in Alaska, they go down to Mexico in order to give birth. But the first thing we see here, we see this diagram of this gray whale going down to the ocean bottom and then coming up. So gray whales eat as much as possible during the summer months in order to store up food for their migration south. One of the techniques they use is to dive to the ocean floor, turn on their side, and suck in large amounts of mud, which is filled with tiny crustaceans that they filter out. So they pick up a whole bunch of this mud, and within that are these little crustaceans that they eat. So now down in Mexico, during the winter months in Mexico, pregnant females give birth to live young. So they give birth, and the young have to be ready to swim and be buoyant right away. They keep these young in Mexico as they grow and add fat for the return migration north to the colder waters of Alaska. So they have to make sure that their calf is going to be strong enough to make that return journey up to Alaska. So they'll grow first for a few months down in Mexico. Now, gray whales, for a time, were actually hunted, and their numbers really crashed. So let's take a look at that. Gray whales were nearly hunted to extinction during the late 1800s. So it kind of starts in like around 1850, which is right around the time of the gold rush, and then drops dramatically through the rest of the 1800s. Gray whales were targeted during the West Coast Gold Rush. So West Coast Gold Rush, this is Alaska, Canada, and California. Whales were prized for their oil used in oil lanterns. And there was enough of a need that they started to become overhunted. Gray whale populations crashed from overharvesting. You see in 1857, they have a decent amount and then just drops. And this goes into the 1900s. This continued into the mid-1900s and only reversed because society started putting restrictions on whaling. Population numbers have completely rebounded, making this an environmental success story. And you can see in 1992, the numbers were above 20,000, which was more than it looked like there were in the mid-1800s. So this shows that we can do something that is an environmental concern and actually succeed and make things better or make them back to how they used to be. All right, I hope this helps. Thank you very much.